Vinny.
All right, how's it going?
It's going good, eh?
Yeah. The boat's looking amazing. Look at it.
It's white and gleaming.
It's brand new.
And grey.
We got a lot of gear going on board.
Yeah. Indeed. New vessel.
This is nice. Oh, look at that dive ladder. Oh, look at that.
Pride of the vessel.
Right, I better hurry up, so I've got my gear here. Get it out of my car. And let's get going diving.
Hazey Dawn. It's a beautiful afternoon. We're out with our mates, JP and Mish, enjoying the flat calm and the sunny afternoon.
And here they are, just here.
Welcome back to Billy with Guernsey Shipwreck. I'm JP Fallais and you're joining me, Mish, Phil and Jen on some reef dives. Now this reef hasn't really got a name, it's just a random reef under the sea that we just picked on the plotter and decided to dive on. So we don't know what's going to be here. Might be some fish, might not be some fish. Might see some really cool crayfish, might see some octopus. We don't know. That's the beauty about diving, it's a little bit of a gamble. You never know what you're going to see. You could also dive at different times of year and see stuff that's completely different every time. For all my subscribers that normally come on the dive, they know the format of this channel. This is a chance where you can get out and you can have a dive, relax and see what I do. And basically I just shoot whatever I see. If we see something cool, I'll record it. But I would always use the same footage of that dive or that day in the video. So I'm not regurgitating footage. Every bit of footage is different. What you see is what I see on this dive. Still quite shallow, probably in about 17 meters of water. And a trick that Mish taught me was if we're looking for nudibranchs, which this one is, look for what they're feeding on rather than the nudibranch itself. Let's take a macro view of this one. Probably the most common of the nudibranchs in the Channel Islands anyway. There seems to be hundreds of these. Now normally if this was on land I wouldn't stop twice to look at a slug, but essentially this is what it is. Eating in the briar zones. You always get the odd wrasse on these reefs as well. Quite nice, we're getting a decent light level because we've got white sand in between. Kind of reflects the light back up. The tide is trying to push us south quite quickly. Probably don't need to explain this to anyone, but when you're under the sea, light gets absorbed by the water. The first colour going are actually red. So this is what it looks like under natural light, and this is what happens when I turn both my torches on. The colours pop a lot better. There's also some more nudibranchs just here. Actually quite hard to see, there's two different types. There's this little tiny one here with a yellow streak around its body. There's a slightly larger one here, pretty similar to the last one we seen, but this one's got black spots on. Almost looks like it's been sprinkled in pepper. Another thing to remember with diving is we have only got a certain time on the bottom before we go into decompression. So the deeper you are, the less time we have. So we need to keep on moving all the time. We can't get too tied up with one individual thing. That's pretty cool. Someone's put a cable tie on the back of their crab pot. It's a good idea, that, to keep it closed. Not quite sure whose pots they are, but they're wrapped all over the reef. We're using them as like a reference line to go up and down. It's quite nice to have that reference line. It's also really good to be able to hold on to a piece of rope instead of holding on to the reef. It's a shame. There's a beer can hidden there. I did put the beer can in my pocket, but it floated straight out. Now I need something to hold it down. I could have chucked a stone in there, but I'm going to chuck this individual scallop in there, just to weigh my bag down so it stopped flapping around my face. I will throw him back at the end. There's no point taking one scallop. And today isn't a scalloping day, so we're on Phil and Jen's boat and we're here just to enjoy ourselves, relax and film a few nice stuff for you to see. As I mentioned before, there's loads of ballan wrasse on reefs like this. There seems to be loads and loads around Guernsey. Quite a cool piece of timber this. Not quite sure if it's a shipwreck. There's loads of round holes in it, which is obviously from worms that have bored into it. whenever I see a cave like this, I've always got to stick my head in. Not sure if I recommend anyone else doing that, but normally you get either conger in here or bullhoss. These smaller ones tend to be bullhoss, but I can't see anything at the moment. It's normally only the tail you see sticking out. This is a new fish to Guernsey over the last 3 or 4 years. This is a comber. I think it's the same family as the bass, where all the spines on the back are joined together on the fin. Originally from the Caribbean. The biggest one I've seen is probably about a foot, and this one's only a tiny baby. I seem to find the smaller ones more so. And Mish here has found loads of crevice sea cucumbers. 2 different varieties. There is so much life on these rocks. Just see a spiny starfish in there, and also all of these crevice sea cucumbers. So you can only see their little arms, their tentacles that stick out. What they're doing is they're wafting their tentacles and they're picking up all these little snotty bits you can see in the water. This is all nutrients, phytoplankton, zooplankton, and then they bring them into the middle, into their mouth, and then basically almost looks like they're licking their fingers, to be honest. Quite complicated little creatures. Almost looks like it's been struck by lightning. We normally get 2 different sorts of these. You normally get the darker ones and the white ones. And they always seem to live alongside each other. Have to excuse my wobbling around. I've basically got a bag in my left hand that's trying to pull me in the tide, and I'm kind of hidden down behind a reef with some big lights sticking out, so the water's trying to move my camera all over the shop. No good for these enclosed shots. As I say, we've got to keep on carrying on if we want to see as much as we can on this single dive. Not quite sure what this round piece is. Some sort of scrap metal that's been bent. You'll probably notice that we've come back to where we started, so we've gone up and around and then back down. Basically we're just trying to check on all the sides of this reef. It is starting to get harder to swim into the tide, as you can tell by this kelp. There's a nice big rock with a gap underneath, so there's definitely something under here. Just as I thought, there's a huge conger under there swimming around. You can see his black face. He's actually covered in silt, or he's covered in dust. Inquisitive, keeps putting his head out with his big round eyes. Don't think he's going to come out the hole for us to film though, so I might have to put my camera under a little bit closer. I guess I'd say between 20 and 30 pound. Not humongous, but big enough that it caused some damage to me. So give him a bit of respect. Stay back. Although it looks like he's more scared of me. Let's carry on and let Mish be able to get her camera under there so she can take a photograph. See what else we can find along the edge of this rock. It's down out the tide. Here we go, there's another comber fish, slightly bigger than the last one. And it just goes to show how many comber fish are now in Guernsey waters. It's almost a guarantee on every dive. Trying to struggle to swim into the tide. Can you see at the back there, there's like a clear fish with black spots. It's a leopard goby. There's a couple there. They normally sit out on their sand, make their own sort of gardens. There's another one to the right there as well. They don't grow very big, about 4 or 5 inches max. Just behind me is the edge of the reef, so we're just trying to scoot along the side of the reef. There's a blue fire jelly struggling in the tide. We're going to see a lot more of them soon, that's for sure. The water temperature is a little bit warmer than it normally is. These shells are obviously an octopus's garden. We haven't really got time to look for it. The tide is trying to pull us off the side of this reef, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure how much longer we can hold on. I think that's it for this dive. The tide is pulling us so strong, it's pulling us into the deep. So we're going to have to say goodbye and go back to the surface. If you're wondering what Mish is doing, she's just messing around with the sea gooseberries. So you probably noticed on my way down, this time of year they come in massive swaths. Basically, they're little tiny, they're not jellies, they're hydroids that look a little bit like a jellyfish, but they got nice colourful lights on and two little tails. So I'm not sure how well they're showing up on camera here. You can just see one in the bottom right hand corner. Basically, we're bored when we do our 3-minute safety stop, so we mess around with these little sea gooseberries. Here's a better shot of one. Basically got 2 tentacles that can be retracted right up into the body. It is actually a comb jelly, and it's got 8 of these longitudinal combs, basically arranged in 4 pairs. Now I know these are quite old, these ones, because the newly born ones are more pear-shaped, and these little tentacles are a lot shorter. You can actually see right inside the centre of it, it's eating something. You can see inside its gut. And like I say, there is absolutely millions of these. And they're currently our friends, because they're going to try and get rid of all of this snot for us. Along with the jellyfish, that is. Not many large fish on that one, but I enjoyed that dive. It was relaxing. We've seen some nudibranchs, which is the first time this year. Really good dive there, look. We went up there, around here, around these, around these. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. He's shaped like a Johnson. The tide's just on the whip now, you can see it on that buff there, look.
Yeah.
It's not too bad, it's enjoyable.
Compared to what we've got thrown ourselves.
Exactly. That's the rope off of that box back there. Phil and Jen's gone on delayed, so basically I can see their bubbles. After about 10 minutes we'll see a delayed SMB come up. There's the delayed. Bloom has started. You see the tide screaming down that way, and there's a pole there with an A on it. So I'm only guessing they're probably going to go past the reef. We can't go over that, so we will have to go around. And they must be so close to the surface as well.
Let's fight! Yes! I survived. That was a bit lively, it's good.
Yeah.
We're like, meow. I think you were more worried about me.
Yeah.
So the octopus, I don't think you can see the octopus.
I saw the octopus.
I have to get my torch out and go, look, there's the octopus. Get in there, you right. Get in there.
Good dive then, yeah?
Yeah, it's fun. Fun.
See the tide.
Yeah.
Tide's screaming.
Oh, I saw it afterwards, yeah.
Tide is flying along.
Yeah, it was flying. Oh my god, the crab claws.
Oh, God.
Massive.
That's a big one.
Massive. Pictures, just the pictures.
And
But
they're eating them.
massive ones.
Yeah,
There must be octopus.
yeah, eating them.
They get right up in the holes, don't
Right,
they?
let's see where they
Right
are.
up in there.
Alright, we've got to bankies to fur main. We'll turn around and go back up. They enjoyed their dive. Seen some octopus. See the tide from this side, it's flat and then wrinkly.
I was quite keen to get it out.
It was me hanging on the tide, in the tide, like.
I've got a little bit of air left, I've got 60 bar left in my tank. So I think I want to go over here and have a look at the anchor. There's a big anchor in here. I haven't dived this one isn't in the register, so I'm going to have a little look. See if we can find it. Apparently it feels that it's on his plotter, so just shows the tide that's running now. Got a feeling that might be it there. Big anchor. So looks like it is. Just going to roll over, ties SMB into it, and I'll go down and give it a little film. Show you what it looks like. All these bits here just air bubbles underneath the transducer, which is mounted to the hull. Got feel right down on the numbers. Oh, look how beautiful it is in here, look. Oh. Like the Caribbean.
Hey?
It's like the Caribbean around here, look. Got a yacht at anchor.
Hey?
It's awesome. That big shadow there, that splash and shadow is Phil. This is his air bubbles here, look. Shows his air bubbles. Anchor should be there. You must be close, only 9 metres of water. Phil's done the business, he's tied the delayed SMB into it. I'm finally going to get to have a look at this anchor. I have looked for it before. I got told about it by Matt Eaker from Guernsey. So let's go down and check what it looks like. I do keep a register and I've probably got, this might be number 19. And yeah, we're just classing the anchor graveyard with their hundreds of anchors as a 1. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you go back and have a look at that one. That was a great little mission, that one. But this is absolutely humongous. That's the fluke and this is the ring. I'm not quite sure I can swim through this ring, but it's pretty large. Now Phil did come up and say actually it's covered more than it was last year when he first seen it. And then we got someone fiddling around with the SMB reel. Hope he ain't trying to cut it off. But look at the size of this. I'm kind of thinking it was probably a mooring for something maybe, once upon a time, given the fact that there's quite a few shackles and rings on that. I could be wrong, this might have just been a boat that was on a leeward shore and they had to drop anchor and basically slip the cable and get out of there while they could. But this palm is absolutely humongous. Bear in mind there's probably only well the palm itself isn't even hanging out the sand, so this could be going down at least 4 foot. Here we can see there's a ring and then a large D, long extended D shackle, which is this. Quite a thick gauge. This is where the knot is. And there's another maybe cable of some sort, another large D ring. And then a large shackle. Looks like our friend's leaving now. This is the knot for the second shackle. So I'm thinking this is probably a mooring, if I had to guess. one last look at this palm. The palm is the part that beds down into the sand, and this is called the fluke, but this part of it is called the palm. It appears there's a cable here as well. I'm not quite sure what that's from, but probably part of the mooring system. 40 bar left. Let's head back to the delayed reel. Oh, here it is. I'm not actually that far away. I notice there, look, do you know what these little black grapes are? Just under here. Clean them off. There's also some here, and there's also some on the other side. Those are little eggs that covered in sepia, which are from cuttlefish. They see cuttlefish eggs. Unfortunately, that's the end of our dives for today. Just wait for Phil to get dressed and come pick me up. And whilst we're out, look who we found. It's Sylvia. She's also out diving. It's our friend Lee Delarue. He's out diving today. And guess who's under the water? That's Matt's wife, Sally. He's also handlining for mackerel by the looks of it. Thanks a lot to Phil and Jen Worry, and they took us out on Hazey Dawn today. A really nice relaxing dive. Well, a dive and a half really.
It's going to be tight getting on the moor, there's not much water there. Reckon they'll be alright. There's the mooring there.
Hope you enjoyed today's dives. I certainly did. And the next one is going to be a shipwreck. Can't wait. I'll catch you on the next tide.